Hello and welcome. Welcome to the 2020 Indiana Black Expo Minority Small Business Series presented by KeyBank. Today's topic is small business funding options for new and existing businesses. My name is Gwen Simmons, and I am the Senior Outreach Specialist and Supplier Diversity Liaison with Engaging Solutions. And I will be your host for this afternoon's session. I would like to recognize our sponsors, KeyBank, AT&T, Carrier, Cummins, Delta Faucet, the Indianapolis Airport Authority, One America, Visit Indy, Indianapolis Power and Light, and Eli Lilly and Company. Also, I'd like to thank our series partners. Before we start, I have just a few housekeeping rules for you. First, if you have a question, please type it in the Q&A box, and we will answer as many as possible before our session ends today. Also, toward the end of the session, there will be a link to the session survey in the chat box. We ask that you please fill out that survey. The responses you provide will assist us with planning future webinars. The panelists for today's session are Rick Proctor, Executive Director of Entrepreneur and Business Ownership Initiative with the Indy Chamber, Christopher Caldwell, Northwest Bank's Senior Vice President, Head of Commercial and Business Banking, Indiana, and Dan Drexler, Regional Director of the Central Indiana Small Business Development Center. All right, so let's get to it. Our first panelist for today is Mr. Rick Proctor. Rick?
Thank you, Gwen. Thank you so much for the invitation to come and talk a little bit about BOI and the entrepreneur services that we have for everyone in the Indy region. Just to give you a little bit of an idea of what Entrepreneur Services does, as a division of the Indy Chamber, we had over 10,000 hours of coaching and training for entrepreneurs and small business owners in 2019 alone. We had over 1,300 unique clients and helped to start over 40 businesses. We continue to maintain those relationships and grow more relationships every year. And even through this pandemic, we've been able to continue coaching and training hours, doing online trainings and so forth in order to be able to help people solidify their business and even grow it based on industry through the pandemic. We realized in March that there was something on the horizon that was going to be dramatically negatively impacting small business owners in particular as we neared a shutdown in mid-March. So we began writing a special loan program that continues through to today that we are able to get into the hands of small business owners a small bridge financing loan in order to be able to help them get through a time of low or no income. We call that the Rapid Response Loan, and they can be found on our website to click on the link and be able to apply for that loan. We actually closed 3 of those loans just this morning, and so we're proud to be able to continue to offer that loan program. In addition to loans, we've been actively working with the City of Indianapolis to get some grant money from the CARES Act out into the Marion County region in particular. We closed the Ready to Restart grant program back a month or so ago, but are still operating the HELP grant. So if you are a business that is a bar or restaurant or live entertainment venue in Marion County, we welcome you to go to our website and apply. We have about $1 million left in grant funding in order to be able to help these businesses that pay that Marion County food and beverage tax to be able to support their ongoing rent or pay back rent if they're running behind. These grants are capped at $25,000. But from the response that we've had have been incredibly impactful and helpful to businesses that are some of the hardest hit in the local area. In addition to those programs, we also continue to operate our READY program, which is our Reentry Entrepreneurship Development Initiative. We're entering our 5th year and have had over 10,000 total training hours in that program and over 1,000 clients as well. We do that both, operate that both in local jails and prisons, as well as operating for folks that are formerly incarcerated through local community centers. Again, we've transitioned those training classes to virtual as well. We also have some industry-specific programs like the Villages Child Care Initiative, as well as the GAP financing program that we're working with the City of Indianapolis to continue to roll out as we're looking to help support and grow access to capital for minority-owned construction companies. And so these are just a few of the things that we do here at Business Ownership Initiative, and we'd love to continue working with all of you to see if we can provide an access to capital, as well as the training behind it in order to be able to support your business as well. And if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions later on in the program.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Thank you. That was very informative. We appreciate your input today. Okay, our next presenter is going to be Mr. Christopher Caldwell. Chris?
Thank you, Gwen. I appreciate that. And Rick, thank you for that information. It's always nice to hear about some of the programs that are going on. I wanted to spend just a little bit of time talking about what a bank is looking for in terms of what we would consider to be a bankable credit, a bankable business, and really want to focus on 6 items here that I'll just run through very quickly. The first 2 are sort of interrelated in terms of what is the competitive advantage that this business is bringing to the market. So what is it that distinguishes you from all of the competition that's around you? Sort of ancillary to that, and the second piece then would be, what is that SWOT analysis? What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? What are the opportunities? And what are the threats? SWOT that a business is facing in the current market that it exists in. So for example, if you're selling accounting services, if you're a CPA firm, who's your competition? And it's not just other CPAs, but it's also tax preparation firms. It's also financial advisors. If you're a bar, who's your competition? It's not just other bars, but it is anybody that's trying to get access to the disposable income of your patrons that are showing up at your establishment. The third piece then is, what's the financial plan? And from a bank's perspective, what we are most interested in is, do you have a good sense of what is going to happen to your company based on what you believe is a foreseeable outcome? So we believe that revenue is going to equal X in 2021. None of us saw the pandemic hitting us in 2020 the way it did. So then the question becomes, what kind of fallback position is there within that projection for the company to be able to say, okay, if we're off revenue by 20%, where can we trim expenses? If we're off revenue by 50%, where can we trim expenses? And what's our fallback position if we can't? Obviously, the programs that Rick is talking about and are tremendously beneficial and helpful to bridging that gap as we've dealt with this pandemic. The next item that I just want to quickly bring up, and if our host would type this web address out there for everybody, I think it'd be helpful. It's the SBA's website. It's sba.gov, but in particular, sba.gov/business-guide. That resource is a tremendous resource because it walks you through a variety of different templates. It helps you from a budget perspective. It also then can link you up to banks like ours that are SBA approved banks that can immediately work with you on SBA programs. And it will help give you some really good guidance and direction as you're trying to either establish a business or try to help your business as it's trying to grow. The fifth item that I just want to briefly address is, and it sort of falls into the sixth item here as well, is understand what the financial tool is that you need as you're trying to establish your company. Oftentimes we will have a prospect come to us and say, my CPA says I need a line of credit. Well, okay, is that a line of credit for operational purposes? In other words, is that a line of credit that's going to simply help bridge the cash flow gap as somebody that you've billed is paying you? Or is it a tool that you're using to acquire fixed assets? If it's the latter, there are different tools that you can use than just a line of credit. And so my sixth and final point here is, it does not cost you any money to sit down and start talking to a bank. I would recommend that you interview bankers, that you begin to understand what that bank is looking for in its clientele, and you understand the individual that gives you a comfort level that can understand your business. Some banks simply do not want to do certain types of business loans. They don't want to even work with certain types of business due to a variety of different regulational issues that we've got. On the flip side, some banks really like working in that realm. And so, again, I would urge you to interview a bank to make sure that they're asking you the kinds of questions that are important to the success of your business, and find that bank that really understands what you're trying to do and that banker that's trying to help you through that process. With that, I'll shut up, Gwen.
Thanks, Chris. We appreciate that. That was very insightful. I like to also stress, adding to Rick's sixth point, that it's very important to find a bank that fits you. So it's kind of personality based and what your needs are too. So thank you, Chris. That was very great. All right, we're going to move on to Mr. Dan Drexler. Dan is the Regional Director of Central Indiana Small Business Development Center. Take it away, Dan.
Thank you, Gwen. Appreciate the introduction. And I imagine several of our clients are online here, so please be nice to me and your questions. Our center has had quite the influx of client demands over this pandemic, and it's been interesting to see the difference between where we started in March with the pandemic relief to where we are now, with a lot of companies coming to us or individuals coming to us for startup assistance. So I would like to preface my comments with, all is not doom and gloom. There is a lot of good happening right now. And when you look at services like Rick is offering with BOI and the lenders like Chris's company, we're actually seeing some really, really good traction in the industry. That doesn't mean we still don't have issues. And that is hopefully what your Small Business Development Center is here to help you with. It's to navigate both the good and the bad times. Right now, we are at record levels of client intake across the state. Our central region office is hosted at the beautiful Butler University campus and the Lacey School of Business. We serve the 8 central Indiana counties, and we have across the state 9 other centers, many of which you're probably all familiar with. Each is typically hosted by a university, with the exception of our Evansville chapter, which is at the Chamber of Commerce. And our services are intended to help you start your business, grow your business, expand your business, survive all of these things coming at you right now. And to do that, we've been kind of on the front line of many of the programs. If you would look at, for example, the Restart program, I think you're all familiar with that. We've partnered with IEDC as kind of their prep organization to help small businesses get their documentation together, get their applications in process, do some follow-up in that way. If I can share a screen, we'll kind of hit some of the topics there. Let me see if I'm successful in doing this. So let's see here. I imagine, well, I'm not going to be successful with that. That was a beautiful Butler campus, if you saw that. But the program requirements are a little different right now. As of November 1st, we were Marion County businesses. That was their deadline to actually apply for the Restart Grant. The Restart Grant is a CARES Act funded program that would offer currently up to $50,000 in funding as a grant for qualified companies that have experienced a minimum of 30% economic injury going forward. Marion County businesses were funded through the Marion County, Indianapolis area CARES Act funding, and that deadline again has passed as of November 1st. 91 other counties can still have access to this. So if you are outside of Marion County, you are a business that is registered in the state of Indiana. You have fewer than 50 employees as of the end of last year. And a distinction for that, a common question we see is, are those full-time employees? Are they part-time employees? This is FTE, the full-time equivalent employees. So you would be looking at not seasonal work, but what's your core workforce. You would be less than $5 million in revenue, and you would show a 30% negative impact over 2019 to 2020. So those are key criteria. The one that kind of trips people up right now is the 2019 profitability. You would have had to have shown that you were a viable business and you were profitable in the previous year to qualify for the programming. And then the final requirement is that you're in good standing with Department of Revenue and you've actually filed everything that you need to file. So the Restart Grant, it has been popular. We would still encourage you, if you're outside of Marion County, to take a look at those programs, network with your ISBDC office in your region. You can find us through our website, which is isbdc.org. And in the upper right-hand corner, you should see a little thing. It's a graphic that says, "Let's work together." It's a really short online survey. Fill that out. That'll direct you to your correct center, and then your staff at the center will follow up with you. We're not just about Restart Grant. We're about general business counseling, business planning. We're operating and coordinating several other programs right now for existing manufacturers, existing companies. We've got an HR program right now that will help you modify your employee handbook for COVID impact going forward. So we've got a service there. We're rolling out a cybersecurity program for businesses to plug into that will help, previous bricks and mortar businesses that have moved over to remote work. They're doing things differently, more e-commerce. We're rolling out some programs that will teach them how to better secure their networks. And then the very popular, and I think we've had a webinar previously on this, the Project Hope through Indiana University. And that was the effort to put some digital tools into the hands of our small business community. That has ended for this semester. We hope to get an announcement maybe the start of the new year, next cohort or the next group of businesses that would be eligible. That's still pending. So there are a lot of good resources, a lot of good programs. We can certainly talk more in the Q&A and look forward to that. So thank you very much, Gwen.
All right, thanks, Dan. I appreciate that. All right, so we're moving a little bit ahead of schedule, so we got some good time for some Q&A. I see there are a few questions in the Q&A box, so let me go to that. So I encourage you now, if you do have a question, go ahead and type it in. We have plenty of time to go through. We'll get through as many as we can today. The first question comes from Duran Chen. And it is, are there any options that would help with some upfront money for a building loan? If you guys can unmute, all of you, and then we can just jump right on in. Whoever wants.
I think Chris has a lot of money, everyone, so I would go to him. No.
Thanks, Dan. I think it's a really good question because in general, a bank is going to be looking for at least 15% equity injection into a new construction On a current building that is being purchased, though, the SBA has a wonderful program called the SBA 504 program that can allow you to put as little as 10% down into the project. It's still a significant sum. Please don't get me wrong, but it allows you to put as little as 10%, whereas a conventional bank loan is typically 20 to 25%. And so I'm a really big proponent of the SBA 504 program. What happens is that Rick, as somebody that's buying the building, would put his 10% in. The bank would fund the 90%. And then we would also, at the same time that the bank was approving the loan, we would seek an SBA 504 approval that would then come in and basically take the bank out of 40% of that product. The bank then, in essence, would have 50% loan to value. The SBA 504 has a 40% loan to value, and then the business owner has a 10% equity injection. The really cool thing about the SBA 504, though, is it goes up to 25 years, and that interest rate is fixed for the full 25 years. And today, that interest rate is extremely low. So I think that's one way to try to put that together.
Chris, if I could ask a follow-up question to that, we've gone down the route of some SBA loans recently, and just curious, what are some industries that you see are kind of non-starters right now? I know restaurants are getting a little bit of a bad rap in terms of will banks lend, hotels obviously, or even mixed use, multi-use new construction. Can you touch on kind of that sense right now in the industry?
Sure, Dan. Yeah, I think all of those. Certainly restaurant, bar, hotels, and some mixed use. Honestly, we're a little anxious right now about what's going on with the apartment, the multifamily industry, simply because there seems to be individuals, especially in a downtown concentrated environment. So South Bend, Fort Wayne, Indianapolis, Evansville. Those communities in particular that have some really concentrated multifamily properties, individuals are saying, I'm not sure I'm so comfortable living with COVID. I'm not so sure I'm comfortable living with 200 other people riding the same elevator with those, and so there's been some pullback from the downtown industries in particular, or the downtown concentrations for multifamily.
I hear you saying you're not going to fund my commune. Is that
well? We can talk offline, Dan.
Okay.
The other one though, and I think this is a really good question to ask. As I was talking about, sort of what's your competitive advantage that you're bringing to the marketplace? Why would you want to buy or why would you want to build new office space today when some of us, I'm sitting in my office today, but some of my colleagues are working from their kitchen table still. And all of us, certainly the banking industry is asking this question. Do we need all the bricks and mortar that we used to have? And so from an office perspective, is that the right thing anymore? Is retail the right thing? Again, you can't get your nails done, you can't get your hair cut through Amazon, but there's a lot of stuff now that you can buy from Amazon, and you don't have to go to that retail strip center anymore for that. So I think it's going to be an interesting growth pattern that comes out of the we'll get out of COVID. When we get out of COVID, what does the new normal look like? And I think those will be some interesting questions to ask.
Okay, thank you guys. All right, next question comes from Kiera. Is this info beneficial for nonprofit organizations as well?
For the Small Business Development Center Network, we're chartered with the SBA to provide services to for-profit businesses. We do have partners that we work with that are also SBA affiliated, like SCORE, the Senior Corps of Retired Executives. They do some amazing work with individuals looking at not-for-profits or nonprofits. But for our purposes, we're restricted to for-profit businesses.
I would just add something similar in our space. While we do SBA micro loans, we can do some not-for-profit, but only in specific industries, which is childcare and grocery stores in food deserts. So those become fairly specific, and our services become somewhat limited by that. Now, that doesn't mean that we wouldn't be willing to sit down and do some one-on-one coaching on financials. But we wouldn't have any lending or grant options for those not-for-profit businesses.
And certainly from a financial institution perspective, we bank a lot of nonprofits, whether it's a local United Way or a church or the YMCA. So we certainly are very interested. It's part of our mission, and certainly something that drives us. And to Rick's point, though, I would certainly. And to Dan's, I would certainly encourage a nonprofit or an individual that wants to start a nonprofit to work with somebody like SCORE or somebody like Rick's group in your community to get some financial counseling to help build that plan up too.
When there's also a website that we reference often, and it's a great organization. It's charitableallies.org. It's again, charitableallies.org, and they have just a wealth of information on their website, and you can move into that with some legal counseling and some counseling similar to what Chris was suggesting.
Okay, awesome. Great advice, guys. All righty. Let's see. What are the options, and are there any loan or grant programs specifically focused on startups?
I can say at BOI, we love startups. So that's one of the aspects of our mission is to help support startups. Certainly, while in this time of COVID, we wanted to make sure that our existing businesses did not falter. And so that's why we really dove headlong into the Rapid Response Loan Program, which is primarily targeted for businesses that are existing. And while that continues, we do still have our regular loan programs, and we have been able to work with a couple of startups just over the last month. One startup that was somewhat in transportation, but particularly helping older people with their grocery shopping and some of the running around that they don't want to do during this time of COVID, and they're providing that service, and found an area that they could work in, the strong business plan, and providing services that were needed. They were able to cash flow the business, and we were just helping them to do a small loan that would help them to scale their business. So it's a startup, and the loan itself was $5,000. So not a tremendous amount of money, payments relatively low, be able to help that business launch during this time, and then turn around and provide those services to the community. So we definitely want to help small businesses, and if they're startups, we'd love to talk. It's the largest question that we've received. To me, and Dan, I don't know about you, but to me, it was a bit of a surprise that by the end of April, we were already getting requests for our one-on-one business coaching with regards to how to start a business. And it kind of took us off guard. We thought, nobody's going to want to start a business right now. So by June, we started back up we shifted our coaching to the virtual realm, and we're able to start doing business one-on-one classes. And they've been really well attended. And it's specific to what to do here in Marion County or in the Indy region as to how to start a business. Who do you need to register with, and how much does it cost? And then how do you start your financials? How do you balance your checkbook so that your banker doesn't get upset with you? How do you do all of these things as a startup? And so we've reinitiated those classes online, and we have a couple of available slots still for an upcoming town hall in that area.
Okay, great. All right, well, Chris, I'm gonna pitch this one to you. We talked about relationships with your bank. So the question is, what is the best way to develop a strong relationship with the bank when you don't have one?
I think that there are a couple of different pieces to that. One of which is certainly go to their website and see what they sound like. I mean, what kind of bank does this sound like? Is this a bank that really is solely interested in dealing with really large businesses? Is this a bank that talks about the fact that everything has to be done online, and there's an online application and you don't really get to talk to a human being? To is there a bank that you currently bank with personally, and is there somebody at that bank that you could sit down and talk to about their commercial side? The other thing I'd recommend is just talk to your friends. Talk to other businesses, talk to businesses that you are using as a mentor in your process, and say, Rick, who do you bank with? I mean, help me out. Do you have somebody that you would recommend that I visit with? Certainly Dan and Rick both are exposed to a lot of bankers in their business, and they have knowledge of who works well with what. And so I think, local chambers are always a good source to go to. Local chambers want your business to succeed, hopefully because you become a chamber member. And so they want to see your business succeed, and they know who the bankers are that can best help you succeed as well. So I think there's a multitude of different ways. And then it's really a matter of who are you comfortable with? I mean, some bankers just, they have a niche. They like to stay in their niche, and they don't want to go outside that niche. Other bankers really like the consultative kind of approach to helping somebody through. So hopefully that helps answer some of that question.
I mean, if I could chime in also, the SBA, Small Business Administration, offers up a great online service. It's called Lender Match. And a prospective business can go to that site, put in their information, and it will generate, kind of some inquiries with different bankers who might have, as Chris said, that specialty to hit where you're looking and what you want. So it helps you kind of narrow down the universe of banks and helps you find out who is that best lender to establish a relationship with, and gives you those banks that Chris suggested you want to interview. So you can beat on a lot of doors and find banks that it's just not what their niche is. Lender Match really helps you move through that. There's also, at least in the Marion County area, and then they're extending their reach a bit, but there's an organization that's a community development investment or financial institution, so a CDFI. In Indianapolis, we have Renew Indy. They are pretty aggressive right now, and they're looking at different programs for underrepresented businesses. So that's always an option. That's not a traditional lender, but more community-based. So there are some options. Either Rick with BOI, they're a good partner with Renew Indy. Our office, we have got relationships. So we can help talk people through those types of relationships and see if it's a good fit.
Okay, great. All righty, let's see here. I have my eyes on another question. All right, is there funding available to help businesses secure commercial space?
So I'm going to take a stab at this one, Gwen, from securing commercial space to be either acquisition of a building or maybe building out a leased space that somebody's leasing and just needing to do what we call tenant improvements. And the answer to that question is yes. Banks are certainly interested in doing that. and again, it depends on what the structure is. One of the things that I'm seeing right now is landlords are very interested in helping build out space for potential tenants and just building that into their rent. The question would be, how much is your base rent today? How much would your new rent be with the tenant improvement included in it? And is there a better way to pay for it than what the landlord's putting in? But I think there's some different ways to do that, certainly from the bank perspective. But I'm assuming that's where that question was going. But if I didn't answer that question correctly, please let me know.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. If that wasn't quite what you were looking for, please put it in the Q&A and we'll try to get to that to clarify it. All righty. I know we touched on grants for specific businesses. This question is asking, are there any grants or loan opportunities for childcare for startup and existing business?
Most of the grant programs that we see going on right now are generally COVID related. So much of the money came out of the CARES Act. And so and the COVID related money is similar to the loan program that I was discussing earlier, in that it's really designated for existing businesses. Those of us that are a little bit older may recall years and years ago, there was a gentleman on usually late night TV that would wear a crazy suit with question marks all over it, and he would go crazy talking about free money from the government, free money from the government. That really doesn't exist. And so just a grant to start a business just really doesn't exist in a practical form. There are lots of assistance programs and all of the programs that we're talking about, and especially even the relationship that you have with your personal banker, that all can be incredibly beneficial to a small business that's starting out. But really, the job of that entrepreneur is to cash flow their business and work it into a place where it can grow and scale and become profitable. And so while we're all willing to help with that, there are really not a tremendous number of programs that are out there just signing out checks and handing out grant money to start businesses.
Yeah, Gwen, I'll echo what Rick just said. We'd actually, I think in the packet that you'll receive as participants after this, there's a graphic that was put together for a list of some organizations that do offer some funding. And it's intermittent though. I mean, you just kind of have to watch some of their programs that may pop up. LISC is an amazing organization. They do some grants from time to time that, typically would be there to help existing startups, existing kind of pre-nascent businesses get to the next level. So those kinds of funds are available. Kiva is a great organization locally that you can, or nationally, that you can go to for grants. So when in the packet that you'll see the presentation materials, and you'll see some links to programs that offer some good direction. Some are grants, some are loans. It changes a lot. To Rick's point, most of what we're seeing currently for grant opportunities are relief programs for people that have been negatively impacted by COVID and they're trying to survive.
Okay, great. All righty. Let's see. Let's switch this one. Are there any free resources for managing the financials of a startup? Like, are there organizations that offer bookkeeping services or taxes? Dan, you want to take a stab?
I think Rick was talking.
If the small business owner is really just looking at having like a volunteer CPA, if the question is there like a volunteer CPA firm that will just take care of my finances, my encouragement would be to reach out to an organization like Dan or mine, SCORE or others, and really help to ground yourself in your own knowledge of how to operate those financials. It is immensely important for the small business owner to be able to understand those financials in order to be able to scale and grow their business. One of the things that we'll often say, and I think of a longtime client and friend of mine, who worked for years and years for a commercial carpet cleaning company. And decided after those years of working, over 15 years of working for a much larger organization, that he wanted to start his own business. And we worked with him to help fund a new to him van and all new carpet cleaning equipment. He eventually added on to that with some tile cleaning equipment and services to be able to do high-rise buildings downtown. And he grew all that business. But as a small business owner, he knew his service backwards and forwards. He knew how to clean carpet. He was excellent at it, excellent customer service, but the financial piece, not so much. And he really needed a lot of help with that piece. Now, you can pay a CPA and you can pay a bookkeeper, but there's nothing that's going to be able to help you more as a small business owner than to understand those financials yourself and be able to know them backwards and forwards and scale your business to a point at which, if you want to hire an assistant or a helper that can do those things for you, you can do that. But your business itself would be on far better ground and far better standing if you as the business owner, the entrepreneur, understand those financials.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, to follow up on that, Gwen, our business is to help businesses. So that's what our center does. That's what BOI does. That's what a lot of the banking relationships are about. So from our perspective, putting in place a good business plan to take to Chris is essential. And a lot of that are the projections. It's understanding the business. It's to Rick's point about structuring, scaling, understanding how to take it to that level. So, what we like to do is we pair those interested individuals with a business advisor. They work through the business planning. They put some, as best as they can, realistic projections together to, where they want to be in 3 years, 5 years. And then they work with their banking relationship to see if everybody agrees it's realistic. And is it scalable the way we've presented it? So there are some tools out there. And as silly as all the Stevie Nicks TikTok videos may seem, the reality also is YouTube is an amazing resource. If you're late at night and you're tired from your first couple, shifts of work and you're still dreaming about your own business, there are some wonderful tutorials about just general basic bookkeeping, putting your books together. What are the essential documents? Rather than maybe Stevie Nicks, watch a little bit of, a tutorial. It'll put you to sleep, but it'll be good information.
Gotcha. Okay. Someone's asking, Rick, you mentioned a town hall. They're asking, where do they sign up for the town hall?
Oh, excellent. If you just go to our website at indiechamber.com, there is an events page, and you can scroll down through all kinds of upcoming events. We have a women's business event coming up next week where we're having a town hall with a number of local incredible women that are working particularly in the area of small business. We actually boosted this meeting event out on social media. We love our partnership with IBE. Your town halls are amazing, and it's all about getting this type of information into the hands of entrepreneurs any way that we can do it. So that Indie Chamber website, Business Ownership Initiative is a distinct entity from the Indie Chamber, but we operate as the Entrepreneur Services or the Small Business Services division of the Indie Chamber. So we co-locate with them, we partner with them. Our websites are all the same. So when you go to the Indie Chamber website, if you're looking for us, you would just click on entrepreneurship and you'd find us.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. All right, one other question here. So some of the grants require that you provide 2019 tax documents. So we have a question. Are there any other documents they can provide in place of 2019 if they've been in business for less than a year?
For the Restart grant, that's a requirement. The reason is you're looking at a COVID Impact CARES Act funded program that the state is administering some pretty tightly managed funds that are, they're put out to the states, to the communities for very specific, relief purposes. So in that case, they want to see that, yes, 2019 was here, 2020 has been impacted, and they need those documents to compare. The grants, in that way that are specifically requesting those documents are requesting it for that reason and for that purpose. So there's really nothing to get around that requirement because it's a relief program for the purpose of helping companies negatively impacted.
Gotcha. All righty. So next question comes from Bernard. Which organization will be best to apply for a working capital loan?
Well, Bernard, I mean, certainly the long-term, a financial institution is who's going to work best with you from that perspective in terms of an operating line where you're converting receivables, inventory. So you have something that you're selling. You sell it, it becomes a receivable. That receivable then gets paid, and what you're trying to do is just simply bridge that gap in the time there. Certainly, that's what we do all the time from a bank perspective. What we struggle with from a bank's perspective, honestly, is if this is a brand new company, we're trying to figure out all of those pieces that I talked about in terms of what's your competitive advantage, who are you competing against, can you really hit the numbers that you're projecting to hit? And in those situations, we will potentially look at an SBA Express loan or an SBA 7A where we get a guarantee behind your loan that the SBA provides. So we certainly are the solution. I think from a long-term perspective. I guess Rick and Dan, I'll throw it to you guys if there's something else there.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. Honestly, if I was starting a business or an entrepreneur comes up and asks me, where do I get started for financing? I refer them back to Chris, their banker. That's the first place that they should go, because if they qualify there and they're able to establish and maintain and grow that relationship over a long period of time as the bank gets to know them, there is something to the longevity of that banking relationship. Where BOI comes in would be when Chris says this is a startup or there's some other reason why the bank is not able to get a loan done. For example, if it's a credit issue, the bank may have a minimum credit score under which they are not allowed to offer a loan. Chris then would come to an organization like ours and say, Rick, would you be able to get this loan done? It's about 10 points lower than what we're able to do. And we may very well able to get that loan done. And if we do, what we do is work in that area of coaching, post-loan coaching, to help to mitigate the reason that they were not able to get the loan done with Chris. And so then we're able to transition ultimately that relationship back over to your local financial institution. And so we work with bankers all the time to be able to hand these clients back and forth, but also work in the coaching field after the loan to be able to ensure that we're not just doing the loan and moving forward, but we're doing the loan and then determining the reasons why they were not able to get that loan at the bank and help to get those things corrected so that they can ensure that that long-term relationship is with their financial institution.
I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but these guys, when you come to them, this is to the viewers here, you come correct. I mean, come with a plan. Don't come with just your hands out. I mean, you got to come with an idea that here's how it's going to work. It has to be a doable proposal. And that takes a written plan, that takes financials, it takes, personal guarantees. You're not going to find a separation between your personal finances and what you're asking for your business. Those are going to be intertwined, and you're likely going to be asked to disclose your personal finances. You're going to be asked to sign a personal guarantee. They're going to want to see something that says, yes, you've got a good idea, you're on a good track, you can back up what you're asking for, and here's how I'm going to scale my business, going forward. So, work with people like our organization, BOI, get ready for those documents and be prepared when you go. It'll shorten your time, and it'll be more impressive when you start the game the right way.
Okay. Awesome. All righty. Let's see. Do you foresee or will there be any grants specifically if a transportation company that moves cargo decided to have a fleet of electric trucks? So are there any efficiency type programs, based programs?
Boy, I'll take a stab and then you guys can correct me. I would say there could be because it depends upon the health of the current company. I mean, are you a legitimately capitalized company currently and you're moving this direction and you're modernizing a fleet for this? Then I would say, yeah, you've got a really good opportunity. If you have not one truck to start with, and this is your dream to go this direction, it's going to be a bit of an uphill battle because you're going to have to show your side of the investment up front. That would be my take. Is I wouldn't rule it out. I mean, there are a lot of modernization grants available. There's a lot of funding that will actually look at that friendly. But it just depends on where you're at with your business and where your start point is, in my opinion.
Okay. All righty.
Dan, I wonder if the electrical utility in that market also might be somebody to go visit with. I mean, they're certainly going to benefit from the fact that these trucks are using electrical charging. So it might be, I live in an AEP world. In a district that AEP provides power. I don't know. But it'd be worth asking as well.
Absolutely. You never know. I mean, it's a great question because, yeah, it's possible for exactly what Chris said.
All right. All right. Chris, this is probably for you. Do you have to be profitable to apply for a private loan?
Typically, yes. Having said that, there are certainly factors that come into play that provide that a bank. Again, this sort of gets to interviewing the banker and talking to the banker. Here's what happened. Maybe there was a health crisis in the family, and as a result of that. The individual was having to take care of a parent for 6 months and really had to take their eye off of the company and focus on a parent's health. What's the story behind the fact that the company didn't make money? At the end of the day, the bank wants to loan. We want to make loans. We don't make any money if we don't make loans, but we have to make loans that get repaid. And so the question that I continually have to ask of my clients is, how are you going to repay me? If you can't show that you've ever been able to repay this loan historically, based on what your company's done, what makes you think that borrowing these funds now is going to be different? The other saying that I have subscribed to in many, many decades of banking now is you can't borrow your way out of trouble. If the company is struggling financially, borrowing money is not going to be the solution. It just digs that hole further. So what's the root cause of the struggle of the company? Once you figure out the root cause of the struggle, then there's some opportunities. And again, I think Rick and Dan and their colleagues across the state of Indiana are wonderful resources to sit down and say, I don't understand what's going on with my company because we seem to be doing okay. We're selling a lot of stuff, but I don't ever make any money. Are you selling it at the right margin? Do you have uncontrolled expenses that you need to really try to ratchet down? So, Do I make loans to companies that showed a loss last year? Yeah. But when we do so, there's usually a rhyme and a reason behind that.
Okay. All right. Well, Chris, I'm gonna pick on you a little bit more. All right. If I'm starting a business, what do I need to apply for a small business loan?
You need to go talk to Dan and Rick. You need a really good, rock solid business plan. And that rock solid business plan needs to not only have what you believe your projections are, but it also needs to have a sensitization to that to those projections. So if you believe that you're going to have $1 million in sales, and you really honestly can build a case that says, yeah, I'm going to have $1 million in sales. What happens if you only have $750,000 in sales? What's going to happen to the bottom line of the company? And so when I'm talking to a brand new company, one of the first things that I'm looking for is that written plan. We're looking for the personal financial statement of the owner. We're looking at the overall profitability of that individual's household. So as an owner, do you have a spouse who is working outside of this company, and therefore the mortgage gets paid, the car payment gets paid, the utilities get paid, and when you're trying to set this company up, you're not all of a sudden relying on $120,000 a year salary to come to you when you can't, when this is a brand new startup. So we're looking, but at the end of the day, I can't emphasize this enough. We're looking for a written business plan that really truly understands the product that you're providing, whether that's a service or a tangible product, and what's the marketplace for that? Does it make sense?
Okay.
Dan or Rick, jump in on top.
I'd like to add something. It's a little bit nuanced to what you're saying, because we're talking loans there, but even when the grant becomes available, and they do by specialty for underrepresented businesses, there are grant funds that do become available to the communities. We still would love to have your business plan in place. You're going to be more competitive for those grant opportunities when you have a path forward. If you go to one of these established organizations like Kiva or LISC or Curfew, you're going to want to go to them with an idea, because you're going to be more competitive as an applicant for those grants. You're going to be more competitive when you can show that you have a plan going forward. So it's not just on the lending side, on the consumer lending or commercial lending side. It's actually when the grants become available, be prepared to take advantage of those. And to the organized company, to the organized individual, your increased odds will be tremendous. I would also add, and there's a group that we haven't even talked about yet. It's peer-to-peer lending. We've got, Halo out of Indianapolis as an organization where you can go get microloans. It may only be $500 or $1,000, but that could be enough to get some marketing for a product that you're manufacturing in your home. There are groups like the Lending Club, Prosper, where you can go and request from peer groups. That'd be, Rick, Chris, myself, Gwen, all coming together in this community, and we're going to put $500 up a piece, and all that's aggregated, and then somebody wants to borrow that money, and we all say yes or no. And there are websites out there with peer-to-peer lending that offer favorable terms. If not, there are some peer-to-peer kind of almost grants in a way. They're not grants, you still pay them back, but maybe zero interest, which is, kind of floating other people's money to achieve your goals. So, and those are typically at a micro level. You're not going to go fund, the purchase of an entire electric vehicle fleet, but you're able to actually get that $1,000 maybe to get the seed money to buy the materials you need to then process and then resell and make your profit and reinvest in your company. So peer-to-peer lending is definitely something startups should be looking at, as well as monitoring the opportunities for local grants based upon, as they become available. And unfortunately, we don't have a list of that. I know in the slides that we presented earlier, I think it's in the chat link, you can take a look at some organizations that we've listed that offer often, grant opportunities, but they didn't. Again, I emphasize those change, they rotate in, they rotate out. It's not a static audience of grant opportunities.
Okay, awesome. All right, next question. All right, it says, my business is registered in Hendricks County at my home until I secure a commercial space. Unfortunately, as a startup in January 2019, prior to COVID, I didn't get a chance to generate revenue. Do I still qualify for Restart?
I'll take that. It's going to be one of the hardest audiences that we've addressed. You know, I started this job in March. I think it was like 10 days before the world imploded. And, you know, you jump into these jobs and you think you're going to help dreams be built and, you know, prosperous companies, and you're looking for the next Bill Gates, right? We went through a whole year of startups in 2019. You know, I mean, when you look at the records, you see all those companies that got into business right at the end of 19, at the beginning of 20, you know, or somewhere in that time period, and they haven't had the time to really get their feet to them, or their sea legs, you might say. They really have had, they've been kind of notched out of the assistance. And I don't have a solution, but to answer the question directly, yeah, you're going to be left out of this one. There's really no opportunity for a company without that track record to show the negative impact from 19 to 20. And I hope going forward, we're able to figure some kind of a solution for those firms that were new in 19 that just didn't quite, you know, catch on yet. I mean, they did nothing wrong on their own. You know, you followed all the rules, you did everything right. You did what you were told, you were on a good path, and then bam, you know, rugs pulled out from under you. We get it. Yeah, at our level, at all of our levels, Rick's, you know, Chris's, mine. But right now, the programs are geared to those established companies in this COVID relief time that show the incremental or the negative impact from 19 to 20.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. All righty. Let's see. I had another question here. Okay. Are there any specific loans for the purchase and rehab of a residential property that an investor is planning on fixing up and renting?
I can say that I do not have any loan programs for that.
I mean, we do it all the time from the bank's perspective. Certainly looking at converting a property that needs to be renovated into a rental property is something that we do all the time. Typically, the loan looks something like this. We're going to ask for you to inject some equity into the project. I'll make the numbers easy for my simple brain here. It's a $100,000 project. We're going to ask you to contribute $25,000 to the project in total. So maybe the purchase is $25,000 or $50,000, and there's another $50,000 worth of work to be done to the property to get it to the point where it is that you want to rent it. We're going to ask you to contribute somewhere in the neighborhood of $20,000 to $25,000 to this project. The bank then will loan the additional 75, typically in a line of credit function for the period of time that it takes to rehab the project, so that we don't hand you $75,000 and say, start making principal and interest payments right away. You draw on that line, you get it up to the 75,000, the property's finished, you turn it around, you rent the property, the loan gets converted to a term loan, and then you just start making principal and interest payments. We do that all the time. And in some markets, it's much more prevalent than others, but certainly, you know, it's something that people do on a regular basis and make a really good living doing it too.
All right, thanks, Chris. Okay, are there any updates on PPP or the anticipated next phases?
As of right now, from where we sit, we're not seeing immediate action on that. I think banks are tending to want to see what happens federally, nationally right now. You know, hopefully they're going to streamline the forgiveness process another step, and the banks are going to be paperless going forward on several of these. You know, maybe whatever that threshold might be, that's still up in the air. But I haven't seen a lot of traction on that yet. It's a lot of, you know, getting everything together for the inevitable application. And then hopefully it won't be as painful of a process as it might currently be.
Yeah. I can tell you, Dan, just anecdotally, that we've opened our portal to the forgiveness side of this. And we're not seeing as many folks apply for forgiveness right out of the gate as we thought we would. We're getting a lot of CPA firms and financial advisors that are suggesting they wait until 2021 or until there's some clarification as to the tax ramification of the forgiveness side of that. But I also am hearing that the SBA, when the application gets to them, is being very, very responsive, and the bank is getting that loan forgiven and paid off very quickly right now. What that looks like on January the 2nd, when all of a sudden everybody starts to apply for forgiveness, I'm not quite sure. But if you have a PPP loan, I'd suggest you reach out to your financial institution and talk about the forgiveness process right now.
Okay. All right, Rick, someone's asking, Angela's asking for info on the startup business classes. Can that be found on your website as well?
Yes, absolutely. We call it Business 101. So when you look for the end, we do have a recorded session of that as well. And so if the upcoming town hall doesn't meet your schedule requirements, we can get you the recorded version as well.
Okay. All righty. And Dan, I'll throw this one at you. All right. Does ISBDC help to prepare businesses to apply for grants and loans?
Yes, we do. That's part of that business planning process we talked about earlier. We kind of a holistic approach to that. You know, we'll work you through what your goal is right now for your business, where you look at 3 years, 5 years. We'll look immediately. You know, we'll help you review your financials. We'll pair you with a business advisor so they can give you their insight, and absolutely 100%. That's one of the core functions of our organization.
Great. All righty. Clint Lowe has a question on tax credits. It says, would the FDA 504 program be able to coincide with any tax credit programs for residential living? And can you provide further insight on applying for tax credits?
The SBA 504 program does not do anything from a residential perspective. So it does not apply to residences. It's strictly a business, commercial property or commercial equipment, fixed asset kind of thing. And so there's no residential component of that for the SBA 504. And I don't have a really good answer on the mortgage side for tax credits. I know that the FHA has a variety of programs on that side, but I'm not, unfortunately, very well versed on the mortgage side of the world these days.
Okay. All right. Rick, this was for you. Forward Cities plus BOI zero interest loan. Can you share information on that?
Absolutely. So let me see here. In the zip codes of 46205, 46208, 46218, and 46222, we have a partnership with Forward Cities where we're able to provide loans up to $5,000 at 0% interest. So there's a limited amount of funds that's available for that program, but we do have funds available, and we're happy to be able to work with folks that might be doing business. That loan program is primarily designed for startup businesses or a business that's scaling. The illustration that we often use would be perhaps an in-home business that receives a large order and can't fulfill the order because they need $500 or $1,000 to buy inventory to be able to fulfill the order. And so we provide that capital, they fulfill the order, get paid on it, and immediately pay the loan off. So it's not designed necessarily to be a long-term loan, but really it's helped like project-specific style scaling for a small business owner. That doesn't mean that we can't set things up on a 2 or 3 year term. We certainly can if that's what's needed for the business owner. It's an exciting and fun program to work with folks on, and we do have about $40,000 in those Forward Cities loans right now with several different borrowers, and we're really excited about that program.
Okay, great. All right, can an EIDL loan be forgiven?
No. That's a no. That's a collective no.
Okay.
Hey, Gwen, if I could go backwards a step on that question, when you're talking about the Forward Cities, one great organization, love their partnership with BOI, but statewide, since not everyone's right here in Indianapolis, it's important to understand also there are community programs similar to this in other counties. It might take a little bit of digging, but usually a Chamber of Commerce would have that information. Our regional SBDC offices would have that information. I know, for example, the town of Whiting, Indiana, in Lake County, they have their own business program where they do loans, microloans, small loans for businesses. Boone County, Lebanon area, and northern kind of north of Marion County, they have a $10,000 loan program for startup businesses. Very favorable terms, and they help the mentoring. They work you through that. So each community actually has their own set of business startups and programs that are out there. So don't ignore your local options. Take a look at that everywhere around the state. We might all be focused kind of in the central area, but the programs exist throughout the entire state at a local level.
Okay. All right. So Dan or Rick, do you guys offer help with actually writing the business plan? Or do you have resources that you can recommend?
That's a great question. Rick, you go first, and then I'll add.
SCORE at times. SCORE is a good resource to be able to do that. We will work with an entrepreneur to write the business plan as a partner beside them. I'd say it's similar to the answer that I had regarding business financials. While someone might say they've never had any experience writing a business plan, we can certainly help with examples of business plans and organization of the plan itself. But the business owner would really be the one that helps to work the narrative of the business plan, understanding what they do, what they specialize in, what makes them better or sets them apart, like Chris was saying earlier, than a business that to the rest of us might seem like an identical business. Why is your business better or different, or what sets you apart? So all of those things would come from the business owner. So whereas we would help, I like that word, coming alongside someone to help them, we would not be in the field of sitting down with someone, talking with them, and then saying, okay, come back next week and we'll have your business plan all ready for you. We don't write them. We assist business owners and support them in writing their business plan. What we like to do is understand somebody else's business dream and help them achieve it on their own terms. We're a support organization, so we like to lift up and not necessarily take over.
Gotcha.
That is an incredibly healthy response. And to the detriment of my own health, I probably have not listened to that good advice well enough, because I have at times over the last several months dug in way too deep on the writing. The nice thing, though, is we in our office, and I'm not sure if other organizations are using this, but we use a program called LivePlan. It's an online interactive or collaborative website that we give access to the business owner. They go in, they give that narrative, and then we actually share access to their plan. We can go in, we can make remarks, we can add, we can modify, edit, however we feel it's to their advantage. When you get into the financials, it takes a little bit more focus by everyone to really nail that down and trying to understand where you want to start, where you want to be from where you start. So LivePlan is an amazing tool. We, through our centers, we have access to that. So if you enroll with the Small Business Development Center as a client and your goal is to write a business plan, well, that's certainly something you can do in cooperation or collaboration with your business advisor. You catch me on a weekday, I might write more of it than I really should. So don't catch me on weekdays, though.
Gwen, to their point, when you're sitting down with the bank, oftentimes Rick and Dan aren't sitting there with you. You're sitting down with the bank or the banker, him or herself, and they're going to start asking questions. And part of the process of being successful with that bank is being able to answer those questions. And if you allow Dan to take over and write the whole plan, you may not be able to answer the questions to the satisfaction of the banker. That, part of that discussion with the banker is really, do you understand exactly what it is that you're trying to do, and do you understand your cost structure? Do you understand the strengths of your company? Do you understand those threats that are out there? And if Dan has written it all, it'll be evident, I think.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I think I've gone through pretty much all of the questions that were unique. Any last parting words of wisdom, guys?
I'd be happy to. Business ownership is not for everyone. It's just not. But if you're willing to work and you do have a dream of owning your own business, there are support organizations that can help do that. And we'd love to be part of your journey in working toward financial freedom in owning your own business. We'd love to be able to connect you to other professional resources like Chris's at the bank, or a CPA, or an attorney. All of these organizations and professionals are there to support small businesses and be able to help them succeed. Small businesses have been more highly impacted by COVID than just about any other. When we look at industries like restaurants and service providers like hair salons and others, it can be incredibly difficult to operate that type of business right now. But what we're seeing from our clients every day is a resiliency and a scrappiness that is really beyond compare. Our clients are some of the most innovative and amazing people I think I'll ever know. And that's why we often encourage you to give us a call because we'd love to share your story of innovation during COVID. We've got a section of our website that does exactly that. While it's difficult to operate a business right now, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't do it. If you're wanting to move forward with it, do it. Take the next step. Maybe it's a side hustle at first, and it's just something that you're doing that's making a little bit of extra money. But take that next step. Figure out what that next step is, and do it. And then the next one after that. And then there's always going to be one after that. And that journey may be a long one, but it's an incredibly fulfilling one when it allows you to live the life that you choose to live and be free of the constraints of perhaps working for someone else or being able to have the freedom to run your business the way you want to run it. The resources are there. If your dream is there and your hard work follows it right behind, then it is definitely possible to not only start a business today, but be able to grow that business and accomplish your dream. I'd encourage everyone right now to take that next step.
All right.
Well said.
Thank you so much. All right, well, this concludes our session for today. I would like to thank Rick, Chris, and Dan for participating in this afternoon's session. We will continue to offer valuable webinars hosted by experts for the balance of the year to help you with your business. Please visit our Minority Series webpage at indianablackexpo.com for additional information and resources to help you with your business. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us today. I hope you found it as informative as I did, and I wish you well, be safe, and be well.
Be well, thank you.